My son Tyler always joked that I was the old money sack, mocking my thrift. But he had no clue I was sitting on $11 million. At Thanksgiving, his wife Megan learned the truth and demanded I hand it all over, threatening to leave Tyler if he couldn't make me comply. You won't believe what happened after that. Before we dive in, tap subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're listening from. Dad, I need $40,000 for a BMW. Tyler's voice smashed the quiet of my home office like a hammer through glass. I glanced up from my quarterly statements, coffee paused halfway to my lips. Papers strewn across my walnut desk caught the lamp's glow, and my fingers trembled just a touch. Son, that's a lot of money. Maybe we consider something more practical. Practical? His laugh was sharp and scornful. Don't act like you can't afford it, Dad. You're just being your usual tight-fisted self. The words landed like a body shot. My cup settled into its saucer with a soft clink that seemed loud in the suddenly chilly room. The grandfather clock in the corner kept ticking, marking a moment that felt frozen. Tyler, I've always taken care of you, but $40,000? You're just an old money sack who won't share. The venom in his voice actually made me flinch. Megan's right about you. You sit here hoarding pennies while your own son drives junk. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I studied my son, the boy I'd raised, sacrificed for, built my days around and saw a stranger. Entitlement twisted his face. The designer jeans and pricey watch mocked the idea that he was struggling. Megan was right, I managed. Oh, she was, he shot back. She said you'd never help us build a real life because you're too selfish to let go. He slammed his fist on the desk, picture frames leaping. Well done, Dad. You proved her point. He stormed out so hard the family portrait rattled on the wall. Through the window, I watched his headlights rake across the driveway as he gunned the engine, gravel spitting like angry tears. Then there was silence, the car fading into the Colorado night. My office, the plaques, the project photos, the tangible evidence of 3 decades building from nothing felt foreign. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd given up, reduced to 3 words. Old money sack. My eyes drifted to the family photo on my desk, the one where Laura cradled baby Tyler while I stood behind them, young, proud, hopeful. The glass was cracked now from his fist hitting the desk. Something had to change. I picked up the damaged frame, tracing the crack that sliced through Laura's smiling face. It felt symbolic. Something beautiful, fractured by careless anger. I remembered when Laura died. It was 1998. Tyler was 8, still small enough to crawl into my lap after nightmares. Cancer took her fast. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral, and suddenly I was alone with a grieving boy and hospital bills that threatened to crush my fledgling contracting company. Those early mornings came back in painful detail. Up at 5, making Tyler breakfast, then racing to the job site. 16-hour days became routine. I'd get home exhausted, paint under my nails, drywall dust in my hair, and find Tyler doing homework at the kitchen table. He'd look up with Laura's eyes and ask why I missed his school play again. I'm sorry, buddy, I'd say, hugging him close. Dad has to work extra hard right now. At Laura's funeral, I knelt by her casket and whispered a promise. I'll give him everything we couldn't. College came with a $200,000 price tag. Private schools, the best education money could buy. While other parents complained about tuition, I wrote the checks. Spring breaks in Europe, summers in California, a luxury apartment senior year. Whatever Tyler wanted, I provided. At graduation, pride swelled in my chest as he crossed the stage. He barely glanced my way, too wrapped up with friends whose parents hadn't sacrificed as much. But I told myself it was worth every missed dinner, every bleary-eyed night, every dollar spent. Worth it to see him succeed. The first big failure was the restaurant. Tyler had been lit up with confidence. This is my chance, Dad. I've got it wired. 150 grand later, bad management and expensive mistakes closed the doors for good. Don't worry about paying me back, I said as he fidgeted with his wedding ring. Family helps family. The real estate flip came next. He and Megan found a can't-miss opportunity historic home, quick renovation, big profit. $80,000 in overruns, and hidden structural issues later, they sold at a loss. I covered the shortfall without a word. Then, the tech startup, the app that never got past planning. 120,000 disappeared into research, consultants, and a fancy deck. Each time, Tyler swore it would be different. Each time, I wanted to believe him. Each time, I rescued him from consequences. I set the photo back down, the crack still slicing through Laura's face. The pattern was undeniable. For 27 years, I'd taught my son that failure had no cost, that Dad's wallet was bottomless, and Dad's patience endless. And now, he saw me as nothing but money. The realization settled in my chest like stone. I hadn't raised a son. I'd raised a taker. I'd been so obsessed with giving him everything that I forgot to teach him how to earn anything. The turning point came 3 years earlier, when Tyler brought Megan to dinner at Ridgeview Steakhouse. I got there early, picked a quiet table overlooking the Poudre River. It's where deals got done and milestones celebrated in Fort Collins. Tyler arrived with a stunning blonde on his arm, nervous, buzzing to impress her. "Dad, this is Megan," he said, pulling out her chair with unusual ceremony. Megan, my father, Mark Evans. She offered a manicured hand, and her eyes immediately swept over my watch, my clothes, the keys on the table. The assessment was subtle but unmistakable. She was tallying my net worth. "Tyler says you own Evans Contracting," she said, settling in with practiced grace. "That must be very profitable around here." Not "nice to meet you," not "Tyler's told me all about you." Just a direct probe of my income. Red flag, and I ignored it. She ordered the priciest items without checking the menu: dry-aged ribeye, old vine cab, elaborate dessert. When the check came, she didn't even pretend to reach for her purse. 6 months later, they were engaged, and Megan had opinions on everything, especially the wedding. The venue she wanted cost $50,000, more than many people make in a year. "Mark can afford it," she told Tyler when he hesitated. Not "we'll look smaller" or "we should contribute more." Just the casual assumption I'd fund her dream. Her mother cornered me at the bridal shower by the gift table. "Megan's so lucky," she said, smile sharp. "She's really marrying into money, isn't she?" I wrote the check because I wanted Tyler happy. At the reception during the father-son moment, Megan asked about my investment portfolio while we swayed. Her thank you toast mentioned my generous support, with all the warmth of a receipt. Later, I caught her snapping photos inside my wallet when I left it at the head table. She claimed she was admiring the family pictures, but the camera angle was trained on the credit cards. After the honeymoon, the changes in Tyler were immediate. Suddenly, they needed a better apartment, because Megan thinks we deserve nicer things. His visits got rarer, and when he did drop by, it was with his hand out and Megan's phrasing in his mouth. "Megan thinks you're old-fashioned about money," he'd say, parroting her. "She says successful people invest in their families." I watched my son disappear, replaced by someone who saw me as an ATM with feelings in the way. Their social feeds glowed with designer bags and exotic getaways, while they pleaded poverty to me. Megan's shopping habit became obvious. $3,000 a month on clothes and accessories, while Tyler asked for grocery money. Sitting in my office now, I realized Megan had been poisoning Tyler against me for years, turning generosity into weakness and love into something to exploit. I should have seen it. At 2:17 a.m., I was still pacing, haunted by Tyler's twisted expression and Megan's calculating eyes. The digital clock's red numbers mocked me. Time I'd never get back. In the window reflection, a 63-year-old in pajamas looked beaten. The house creaked around me, settling into the mountain night, and my gaze fell on the wedding photo of Laura and me on the nightstand. "You warned me," I whispered to her face under glass. "You told me not to spoil him." 2 weeks before she died, Laura had squeezed my hand with surprising strength. "Promise me you won't make him weak," she'd said. "Love him, but don't teach him the world owes him." I'd promised and broken it with every bailout after her funeral. Every check, every consequence removed, every problem I solved for him, I made him weaker. Somewhere between the clock chiming 3 and the first pale line of dawn on the foothills, Something in me shifted. I wasn't just a hurt father. I was a businessman who'd survived betrayals, recessions, and cutthroat bids. I'd built an outfit from nothing. I could handle one entitled son and his manipulative wife. I went back to my desk and clicked on the lamp. The awards, the project photos, the proof of strategy. They felt different now, purposeful. Time to stop being the nice dad. I opened my laptop and pulled up the financial records I keep meticulously. Every guarantee I'd signed for Tyler and Megan, every credit line I'd backed, every policy with my name on it. What I saw made my blood run cold. They weren't just overextended, they were sinking. Almost $60,000 in credit card debt. Car loans upside down, personal loans from 3 banks, and Megan's habit was worse than I thought. Nearly $4,000 a month on designer buys while claiming hardship. But the worst was Tyler's gambling. Casino statements showed regular losses at a reservation casino a couple of hours away. $20,000, $30,000, even $50,000 in a night. My son wasn't just entitled. He was addicted. They are in deeper than I knew, I muttered as the printer spit out page after page. At 6, I called my friend Ben Carter, who owned the security company I use on job sites. Ben, I need a favor. Install discrete cameras in my office and living room. Today. You got it, Mark. Then I called Noah Price, the private investigator who'd helped during a nasty contract dispute years ago. His voice was steady even that early. Noah, I need you to look into my son and daughter-in-law. I think they're planning something, and I want to know what. Family cases are delicate, Mark. You sure? I stared at the spreadsheets and heard Tyler's old money sack echo. I'm sure. The last step was the hardest. I opened a fresh sheet and listed every tie I had to their finances, credit lines, insurance, business guarantees, emergency accounts. Everything that bound my stability to their recklessness. One by one, I could unwind and cancel guarantees, remove them from policies, close the emergency cards. It would take careful timing, but I could pull myself out of their web. They only see money? Fine. Let's see how it goes with no money. I lifted the phone again, ready to schedule with Noah. The investigation would start that morning. The version of me who sacrificed everything for an ungrateful son was gone. In his place was someone who understood that love without limits isn't love, it's enabling. And I was finished enabling. The next morning I drove through downtown Fort Collins with coffee cooling in the travel mug. Past the courthouse and the old library, everything felt more focused. I parked in the worn brick building where Noah kept his office, 3 floors above a bail bondsman and a tax place. He met me at the elevator, steel gray hair, eyes that missed nothing, handshake that meant business. His office was a command center of case files and monitors. Appreciate the quick slot, I said, sinking into a scuffed leather chair. Financial digs are my specialty, Mark, he said, pulling a legal pad. What do you need? I laid it out clean. Tyler's entitlement, Megan's manipulation, mounting debt, their obvious plan to squeeze me with guilt. I need the exact picture debts, vulnerabilities, mistakes. Noah nodded, scribbling. Standard financial background, track spending, identify creditors, monitor routines. He looked up. Retainers $5,000 to start. I wrote the check from my business account. How long? Preliminary in 72 hours, complete in 2 weeks. He paused. Fair warning, you won't like some of it. I'm counting on that. Back home, I video called my accountant, Linda Park. Her familiar face appeared amid tidy office chaos. I need an audit of every financial connection I have to Tyler and Megan, I said without preamble. Linda lifted an eyebrow. That's unusual. Why? Simplifying my affairs, I lied. I want to know everything I'm on the hook for. 2 hours later, the truth sat in cells and columns. $180,000 in loan guarantees, car insurance, health insurance, phones, under my name. Their luxury lease downtown? I'd co-signed when they had a temporary gap. You're more tied up with them than most people realize, Linda said carefully. That's about to change. 3 days later, Noah called with prelims. Your instincts were dead on. His voice was grim. Megan spent $47,000 last year on designer splurges. Tyler's been losing at the High Plains Casino $23,000 in 6 months. I gripped the phone. Total hidden debt? 31 grand across multiple cards. Their combined income barely covers minimums. Noah exhaled. Mark, they're living way beyond their means. They need a miracle to avoid bankruptcy. Or a generous father, I said quietly. Exactly. That evening, I built a spreadsheet of their vulnerabilities, every support I could legally withdraw, every dependency they'd created, every assumption they made that I'd keep bailing them out. I checked Megan's marketing firm, looked into Tyler's job security with a regional builder. Each weakness got cataloged and turned into leverage. At 9:30, Tyler called, "Hey, Dad, forced casual." About the other night. Maybe I was a little harsh. Maybe. Right. Well, Megan and I talked, and we realized you probably feel underappreciated. The words sounded rehearsed. We want to work on that. I see. Thing is, we've got a temporary cash flow hiccup. Just timing. If you could float us maybe 5 grand just until I'll think about it. Silence stretched. You'll think about it. That's what I said. After we hung up, I made the first entry in what I labeled my strategic journal. Tyler called. Desperate, still manipulative, no real apology, still trying to pry money with emotion. Phase 1 begins. The satisfaction was cold and clean as the winter air outside. For the first time in years, I felt in control. Later, as I reviewed the vulnerabilities, my phone lit again. Noah, late. Mark, we need to talk now. His voice crackled. It was 10:47 p.m. My desk lamp throwing long shadows. Time-sensitive intel. I straightened. What is it? Megan's firm is laying people off next week. She's on the list. And Tyler's company just lost its biggest contract. Their house of cards is about to collapse on its own. Without my help? Exactly. Perfect moment to pull your support. You don't have to destroy them, Mark. Just stop saving them. The next morning, I walked into Pioneer Bank with a mission. Karen Reed, the branch manager, greeted me with her usual professional smile. Mr. Evans, how can we help? I have several changes. I handed her a typed list. Remove my guarantee for my son's business loan. Close any joint cards where I'm primary. Stop automatic payments for their car insurance. Her smile faded. You're certain? These are significant. Completely. She processed each request with growing concern. When I asked to remove Megan from my health policy, she hesitated. This is your family. Exactly. From the bank, I drove to Aspen Heights, the luxury complex where Tyler and Megan lived. Sam Lewis, the property manager, is a straight shooter I've worked with on projects. Mark, good to see you. What brings you in? I hear my son's lease is up soon. Sam's expression shifted. Yes, and you've been covering late fees for 4 months. They're consistently behind. I won't be doing that any longer. Ah. He glanced at his screen. Lease expires in 30 days. Without your cosign, they'll have to qualify on their own. Which they can't. Probably not, he admitted. They'll need something more. Affordable. That's their problem. I spent the afternoon with Ben Carter, installing discrete cameras at my place. Professional gear, nearly invisible, covering the kitchen, living room, and front door. Audio and video feed to your phone, Ben said, testing. Crystal clear. Perfect. I kept my routine for 2 days. Meetings, calls, evening news, while feeling like a chess player sliding a queen into place. 72 hours after the bank visit, Tyler texted, Dad, some kind of mistake with our card. It got declined at the grocery store. Call the bank? I stared at the message, savoring it. Not a mistake, son. Consequences. The cameras caught everything. That evening, I watched Megan pace their living room, phone to her ear, voice rising as she argued with credit card companies. Tyler sat slumped on their expensive couch, head in hands. This is impossible, Megan snapped. The card worked yesterday. Maybe we should call Dad, Tyler mumbled. Don't you dare. We'll fix it ourselves. But panic flickered in her eyes. For the first time, they were facing a problem without Dad's checkbook. My phone buzzed again. Tyler. Dad, we need to talk. Something's wrong with all our accounts. I smiled and powered down the phone. Let them sweat. 3 weeks to Thanksgiving, when they'd sit at my table and learn the new rules. The turkey was perfectly bronzed when I heard their car in the drive. I'd set the table for 3, polished Laura's china, and tried to look the gracious host despite the knot in my stomach. They were 20 minutes late, both worn down in ways nice clothes couldn't hide. Megan's smile was brittle when I opened the door. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mark," she said, air-kissing my cheek like we were strangers at a gala. Tyler looked pale, thinner than 3 weeks ago. "Hey, Dad, thanks for having us." The irony wasn't lost on me, thanking me for letting them into my own home after treating me like an ATM with a conscience. "Have a seat. Dinner's almost ready." We started quietly. I carved the turkey. Megan made small talk about the weather, how charming the house looked, how quaint the traditional place settings were. Each compliment felt like a paper cut. Tyler picked at his food and finally mentioned their recent banking glitches. "Strangest thing, Dad, everything canceled at once. Some system bug. I kept eating. Not a bug." Silence fell so complete, I could hear the hallway clock. "What do you mean?" Megan's fork stopped midair. I canceled the cards, withdrew my guarantees, and stopped the auto-pays. I buttered a roll with deliberate calm. "I'm not abandoning anyone, I'm just done enabling." Megan's mask slipped. "You can't abandon your own son." "I'm not abandoning him. I'm teaching him to stand up." "Excuse me a moment," she said through clenched teeth, pushing back from the table. I knew exactly where she was headed. The cameras would catch her snooping in my study, and the statements I'd left in plain sight, showing my true net worth. She came back 5 minutes later, flushed, whispering into Tyler's ear. His eyes blew wide. "You have 11 million, she said, voice cracking. "Yes, and it's mine. Tyler deserves his fair share." She stood leaning across the table. "We deserve better. You've been hoarding money while your son struggles." "Struggles?" I gestured at their labels. "You spent $47,000 on shopping last year while pleading poverty." Her face went white. "How do you know about your debts? About your gambling, Tyler? The $31,000 in hidden cards?" I stood, laying my napkin down. "I know everything." Tyler finally found his voice. "Dad, you're being cruel. We're family." "Family doesn't manipulate and threaten," I said evenly. "Family doesn't call their father an old money sack." Megan's desperation turned to threat. "Give us what we're owed, or we'll go legal. Elder abuse, incompetence. We'll get what's ours." I looked at both of them, stripped of pretense. Greedy, manipulative, entitled, everything I feared. "You're welcome to try." I walked to the door and opened it. "Dinner's over." Megan brushed past me. "You'll regret this." I leaned on the door after it shut, listening to their car fade into the November dark. "No," I said to the empty house. "You will." The dishes could wait. I had calls to make. My phone rang while I was scraping cranberry sauce off china. Noah, again, perfect timing. "They went straight to a lawyer after leaving your place," he said. "Douglas Associates on College Ave, 2 hours talking estate law." I set down a plate and went to my study. "What's the angle competency? Abuse? They're claiming you're not thinking clearly." Noah's tone carried dry amusement. Megan spent the evening researching guardianship laws. Desperation makes bad choices. Exactly. They're about to make more. In the morning, I called my attorney, Rachel Ortiz. Her voice was crisp as I explained. "Document everything," she said. "Every threat, message, rumor. Stay inside the lines. I want a new will. Smart. We'll do full estate planning and stop any financial gifts. Those get questioned later. Already done. Good. Mark, they're going to get ugly. Ready? I'm counting on it." Megan's next move was predictable. She started calling my business contacts, hinting that my mind was slipping. Dan Miller, my longtime industry friend, rang me Tuesday morning. "Mark, I'm hearing odd things." I set him straight with dates, numbers, and the truth. Later that day, Tyler called with a plan to prove he was serious. I listened, then said, the only thing that could convince me would be him. Cutting ties with manipulation and doing the work. Starting with leaving the person, pushing him to use me. What? Prove you're sincere? Divorce her today. Walk away from the manipulation. His mask slipped. I can't abandon her, Dad. That's not who I am. Then, you've made your choice. I ended the call, leaving him with his tears and empty promises. Every nasty voicemail from Megan, every guilt-laced text from Tyler, every rumor they spread into the file it went. By Thursday evening, I had a clean timeline of 3 years of escalating demands. Loans, guilt trips, threats. The pattern was obvious. At 9:30 p.m., an unknown number buzzed. Mr. Evans, the voice was fake high, but the cadence was Megan's. Megan. Silence. Then, in her normal tone, you'll pay for this. Are you threatening me? I'm promising. We'll wreck your reputation, your business, everything you built, unless you give us what we deserve. I hung up and called Noah. Trace it and add to the file. Already on it. They're spiraling, Mark. Exactly what we wanted. Good. I'm ready to show them what real leverage looks like. No more defense. In the morning, I called Alan Cooper, my CPA of 15 years. His firm handles taxes for half the successful shops in town. Alan, I need audit recommendations. A certain marketing firm is showing inconsistencies. What kind? Lifestyle that doesn't match T returns. I have reason to think one employee isn't reporting all her income. Alan kept it professional. I can't initiate anything myself, but an anonymous tip to the IRS about potential evasion is a civic duty. Keep your hands clean. They already are. The IRS tip took 5 minutes online. Megan's social posts flashing designer goods worth more than her salary would be interesting exhibits. Next, I drove to the High Plains Casino. Diane Brooks, the security chief, has dealt with problem gamblers for 20 years. Her office overlooks the floor through one-way glass. Mark Evans? Been a while, she said, firm handshake. What brings you here? My son's account. Tyler Evans. Her face changed. Ah, the markers? 15,000, give or take. With interest 15.3, she said at the monitor. He's dodging calls. We're close to legal action. What if I buy the debt? She blinked. Buy your son's gambling debt? Clean transfer. I pay you? I become the creditor. Unusual, but perfectly legal, she said, respect in her voice. Smart move. 30 minutes later, 15.3 transferred from my business account, and Tyler owed me no longer a faceless casino. Now I controlled his biggest liability. Lunch with Dan Miller at Ridgeview was productive. We've known each other forever, competed on bids, swapped war stories. How's Tyler doing? Dan asked over steaks. Having problems, I said, voice fatherly. Gambling, reliability. I heard he's up for a project manager slot. Dan's fork paused. Gambling? Debt? Missing time to deal with creditors? Every word was documented. As his father, I'm worried about his judgment under pressure. Geez, Mark. Thanks for the heads up. We can't risk that on a major site. I'm not trying to ruin his career, just sharing facts you deserve. Appreciate the candor. Family loyalty only goes so far when there's liability. My last stop was Paul Garner, who owns Aspen Heights. We're reviewing Tyler's lease renewal, I said in his paneled office. Without your guarantee, we need to verify their income, he said, pulling a file. The numbers don't add up. How so? Spending versus declared income. Credit checks show heavy debt. Honestly, I don't see them qualifying. I'm no longer involved in their housing decisions. Understood. We'll run thorough checks. Standard. Driving home in the early dark, I felt the pieces click. Every move I made used legitimate channels. Every consequence would flow from their choices. As I parked, the phone rang. Noah. Megan's job just became critical. IRS audit notice hit her employer today. Perfect. The dominoes had started. Snow began to fall the next morning as Noah called while I ground coffee. The IRS walked into Northfield Marketing yesterday, he said, barely hiding his satisfaction. Her boss is asking hard questions. What kind? I asked, pouring water. How someone affords $47,000 in designer goods on a coordinator's salary. And Megan? Called in 6-second time this week. Patience is thin. Over the next days, I watched her world crumble through Noah's updates. The IRS visit triggered an internal audit of her expenses. Discrepancies popped up. Personal purchases on company cards, padded mileage. Client dinners with no receipts. She's panicking, Noah said at Tuesday's check-in. Sick days to dodge investigators, which only looks worse. The credit card cascade started the same week. At Nordstrom, every card declined. Noah's contact pulled the security footage, Megan arguing with the associate, demanding managers, then storming out, red-faced. Emily Tran, the boutique manager, stayed cool and professional, Noah added. No drama on their end. Her attempt to use Tyler's card failed just as badly linked to my guarantee systems. The footage showed her digging frantically through her purse as other customers watched with a mix of pity and curiosity. Friday brought the termination I expected. Samantha Blake at Northfield couldn't risk IRS proximity. We can't be tied to tax issues, Samantha told Megan in their final meeting, according to Rachel's network. The conversation was short and firm. Megan's response was predictable. Blame me, threaten lawsuits, claim I orchestrated her downfall. Samantha shut it down. Personal family matters can't spill into work. This is business. When security escorted Megan out, she shouted something about suing me for elder abuse and manipulation. Half the downtown business crowd saw it during lunch hour. She's torching bridges, I told Noah that evening. Making herself unemployable. It gets better, he said. The luxury stores are demanding returns on unpaid items. Unpaid? Store credit, payment plans, deposits for special orders. When the cards died, the schedules collapsed. The wardrobe repossession started the next week. Collection agencies traced items by serials and purchase records. Megan tried stashing pieces at a friend's, but the agency waited and retrieved them. Her Instagram, once a carefully staged luxury feed, began vanishing post by post. I checked with clinical interest, watching the real person emerge as the filters fell away. She also tried contacting my business associates directly, spinning tales about family emergencies and misunderstandings. The community was polite but immovable. Word travels fast here. Mark, Megan Evans tried to book time with me, Alan Cooper said. Something about resolving misunderstandings. I told her I'm booked through next year. Similar calls rolled in. Her isolation became total and self-inflicted. By late December, Megan had no job, no credit, no reputation, no social standing in the scene she craved. Noah called while I watched the evening news, an update on Tyler. Phase 2 of natural consequences was next. 2 weeks after Megan's collapse, winter settled in for real when Noah rang with the inevitable. Tyler got fired this morning, he said without preamble. I set down the contract in my hands. Reason? Greg Sanders cited reliability and debt exposure. The promotion background check pulled his casino markers and obligations. And your lunch with Dan started some industry chatter. Construction is a tight circle. News about risky hires moves faster than HR memos. Tyler's gambling and instability were common knowledge among contractors who can't afford liability. Greg was sorry, Noah added, said Tyler has potential, but they can't risk it. That afternoon, Rachel sent a formal demand letter on the $15,000 gambling debt now owed to me. Certified mail, interest, and legal fees detailed. 30-day deadline everyone knew he couldn't meet. Tyler's panicked voicemail hit within hours. Dad, what the hell? You bought my casino debt? We need to talk. You're destroying my life. I saved the message without replying. His life, as if his choices hadn't created every piece of this. Housing unraveled on schedule. Aspen Heights refused renewal without my guarantee, and every application they filed elsewhere got bounced for debt to income. Property managers talk, and the Evans name was becoming synonymous with risk. Paul issued a 30-day notice, right on time, no drama, just policy. I tracked their desperation through property management contacts. Rejections everywhere, backup plans crumbling under bad credit. The luxury life built on my guarantees was showing itself for what it was, a house of cards. Megan's ultimatum came in week 3 of December. My cameras caught their argument in my living room during an unannounced visit when I wasn't home. "Your father ruined us," she shrieked. "Fix it, or I'm filing for divorce." Tyler sounded hollow. "Megan, it's his money." "Maybe we should choose," she snapped. "Me or your selfish father? Get money from him or lose your marriage." Watching later, I saw a 35-year-old sobbing like a child because consequences finally found him. "He ruined everything by being selfish," Megan pressed. "Make him pay." The system captured every bit her calculation, his weakness, their shared fantasy that I owed them support regardless of their behavior. Tyler's last attempt came on a cold Thursday morning when building security called. He was in the lobby demanding to see me. I watched him on the feed from upstairs as he pleaded with the guards. "Please tell him I'm sorry." "Tell him I get it now." They stayed professional. "Sir, Mr. Evans left standing instructions." "You're not authorized." His public breakdown was witnessed by half the morning crowd. Tearful apologies into cameras, promises of reform and repayment, performed for an audience that included people I've worked with for years. I watched from my office window until he left under threat of trespassing. He looked smaller somehow, shrunken by the weight he'd dodged his whole adult life. That evening, security called again movement in my driveway. Tyler and Megan were walking up for what had to be the final play. Time to end it. The alert chimed softly as I armed the recorders. 3 weeks had passed since his meltdown at my office, and their financial and social collapse was now public knowledge in Fort Collins. Through the monitor, I watched them come up the walk in the December dark. Christmas lights on the block made their shabby appearance stark. Megan without her designer armor, Tyler clutching what looked like papers. They were hollow-eyed ghosts of the people who demanded my $11 million a month earlier. The bell rang at 7:30 on the dot. On the intercom, Tyler's face filled the frame, Megan behind him, head down. "Dad," he said, voice cracking, "please, we need to talk. We're sorry. We made terrible mistakes." Megan stepped forward, tone artificially humble. "Mark, we were wrong. We've learned our lesson." They poured out the confession: no jobs, no home, no credit, no prospects. Tyler's breakdown felt real this time. "I should have listened, Dad," he said. "I should have appreciated what you did." But even in defeat, Megan's strategy ticked on. "We'll pay you back. We'll work for you, earn forgiveness. People will judge you for abandoning family." Still, I said nothing, weighing how they were still trying to manipulate even now. They hadn't changed. They'd run out of options. Finally, I spoke through the intercom, calm and even. "You called me an old money sack. You were right." Silence. "Money was all you saw when you looked at me, Tyler. Not a father, not a person, just funds for your lifestyle. You chose greed over gratitude. Live with it. Dad, please. I gave you everything. Education, chances, bailouts, do-overs. You gave me demands and contempt. You left me first when you decided I was just dollar signs with inconvenient feelings." Megan's voice sharpened. "You can't abandon family. You're supposed to—" "This conversation is over." I cut the line and engaged lockdown. From upstairs, I watched them stand in the cold, then start arguing as reality set in. Eventually, they walked off into the dark. The house exhaled. No more manipulations, no more demands, no more guilt dressed up as duty. 6 months later, I deleted the footage and put the family photos face down in a drawer. My business ran smoother without constant emergencies. My home was peaceful without the tension of expected handouts. The local industry knew the truth by then. A man finally set boundaries with relatives who saw him as a cash machine, not a person. People who understand enabling isn't love supported me. Sometimes love means no. Sometimes protecting yourself means cutting ties with those who refuse to respect you. Sometimes the kindest thing is letting people face the outcomes of their choices. I kept no photos, kept no contact, felt no regret. Justice didn't come from revenge, just from ending my enabling and letting their actions decide their fate. The old money sack was finally free. If this story resonated, like the video, subscribe, and tell us what you thought in the comments. To hear the next one, tap the box on the left. Thanks for watching.